Well, happy Thursday. Welcome to it. Billy Merritt presents DigiNinja Dealer School. I'm Paul Sullivan filling in for Billy Merritt today. As always, on Thursdays, DigiNinja Dealer School, we have Caleb Wilson, who is an absolutely phenomenal salesman. He's been in the car business for a long time. Caleb, that's about as nice of a setup as I can do for you. How you doing this morning, man?
Hey, good morning, Paul. Good morning. And me too. I'm not quite as prepared as normal in a little different place. But hey, where's Billy at today?
Billy is off in Tennessee, or he's on his way to Tennessee. I can't remember how long it takes him to get there. So
Okay.
he's headed to Tennessee to just sell some more dealers. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll just be honest. I was unprepared today, and that's not like me. I got a little behind on the days with the election and everything. But I do have. I'll pull some things out that maybe can help some people today, Paul. So first, Paul, one thing I'll tell you is that I'm real big on controlling what you can control and things that you can do something about. And if you can't do something about something, then you really it becomes a phantom in your life. And a lot of people sit around worrying about things that may happen and they never do. So I was real bad about that. I've always told people that one thing that's made me really good at sales or management is a high level of anxiety. When you have a lot of anxiety, you're always replaying everything in your mind. So you're always trying to just replay, and think about things. And so, high level anxiety will actually help you sell a lot because you don't forget things, and you worry about things, and you constantly, you're constantly worrying about, well, what about this one person? What if I done this? What if I done that? And so a high level of anxiety will help you a lot. And so, it also creates a lot of stress, right? And stress creates physical issues and health issues. So for years and years, doctors would try to put me on antidepressant or anxiety medicine, and I wouldn't do it because I said, hey, you know what? The only thing that I really have to make any money is my brain, because I'm not going to take anything that may impact that negatively and make me feel sluggish or not have that anxiety, because I know it really helps propel me and make me do better at things. And that's why sometimes with people that will work for me, I'll get frustrated with them, and I'd say, why could they not remember this, or why is this not bothering them? But that's just because not everybody has that same level of anxiety about things. So personally, I worked on that, and so now obviously more than ever is a good time to really talk about that, about only worrying about things that you can control.
Sure.
And so spoke with, obviously, with the election turmoil, we all knew that was going to happen. There's no one either side of the aisle who did not think or forecast this being exactly what was going to happen. And so I know on our side, a lot of people are on the dealership side. A lot of our dealers are apprehensive and nervous about spending money right now on advertising, and which I 100% understand. In fact, I've advised against, like Billy's advised some people to rock and roll, and I've advised some people to hold off, and that's okay. That's what me and Billy have different views on some things. Sure. And at the end of the day, we're both going to do what we think is best for our customer. But then also I want to say, and so we've talked about that. But I was going to give a couple stories over the last couple of days, Paul, for today's show, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
And that might just encourage some people. And I know, like I said, I may not make it an hour today, but first, so here's the first thing. Good client ran a lot of Facebook with us. Client calls me and he says, hey, listen, man. He said, our dealer is a little bit nervous. He said he's a little bit nervous with everything going on. He's a little scared of social media, and he wants to kind of go old school this month and maybe do an event type sale, bring in a full staffed event, run a lot of direct mail, and try to just go big. He's like, I want to go all the way. And, I don't sell direct mail because I've always told people I feel like it's Russian roulette with your customer, because there's a lot of things you can't control. You can't control the post office. You can't control a lot of things, and so that's why I love Facebook, because I can control the ads, I can control the effort, I can control things. So, but it does work. There's no doubt it works, and it does great for a lot of people. So anyway, long story short, the point is this dealer, I said, look, man, that's a lot of money. You're talking $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, to do one of these big events. And he says, hey, He says, you know what, man? He said, I'm cool with that. It's the dealer wants to do it. He's putting pressure on me. Let's do it. And I was like, man, I'm over here thinking maybe nobody wants to spend any money right now. And this guy's like, hey, let's spend 35 grand, let's spend, and so I'm like, I'm nervous. Of course, I'm like, man, this is a good customer. If it goes bad, I'm going to lose him. It's easy to not be upset with me over $79.95 and having a bad week, but $40,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's hard to recoup.
Yeah, it's hard to recoup. And so, with all that being said, I'm fully confident that it's going to go great for this guy. But more than that, it's nice to hear that not everybody is retreating and retracting. Some people are going to push through. And some people are going to say, hey, look, you know what? I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. This may sound bad, Paul, but a lot of the people we deal with in the decision maker level are general managers, and it's really not. It's not their money. They're spending they're spending someone else's money. Right. And if that person gave them and said, hey, look, here's your budget. You got 80 grand to spend. They'll spend it, they'll spend it with us because they got to have some advertising, or they'll spend it with you guys. If you're into selling, and that don't just go one way, that goes for everything we're doing right now. So that was one thing I was talking about, is just positive that, hey, look, not everybody's scared right now. Some people are going to spend even more. And then, another one, Paul, I'll keep going, but another one,
that's all right. Billy claims that I do that too. So go right ahead.
All right. Well, hey, not everybody can be as slick as Billy at podcasting. So I got a land, I helped a man, a friend of mine who lost his job when COVID started, and we opened a land grading and clearing company. And it wasn't something that I was passionate about, but he was. And I knew he was a good quality person. And as you know, with just managing people, Paul, if you got someone who's really passionate about something, kind of like Smith, he's real passionate about the producing, and that's what he loves to do. Well, I always say, like, you got to let your horses run. You can't hold people back at what they're really good at. And if you can find something someone's really passionate about and good at, and you can help them do it, then you really should. And it'll be beneficial to you too. So obviously I make money off the deal. But my point is we took in in the last 3 days since the election, he took in a job for a big company who makes brake pads nationwide. Well, he took in a job for them doing clearing out for a new parking lot they're building. It's a $10,000 job. He took in a job. A family moved down from New York, had a lot of trees they wanted gone. It was $20,000 job. I even thought it was high, and the lady said, "Hey, expensive to you may not be expensive to me." And I was like, "Well, that's a good point." I was like, "I could talk about that on the podcast." Well, and then we had another lady who was moving from Charlotte, trying to get out of the inner city. A small deal was like a $3,000 deal. Then we had another job, a big job. There was another one that was around 20. So it was just like in 3 days, we sell, almost $60,000 in work. So my encouraging words to everybody in the car business is, not everyone is worried about politics. People are still going to live their day-to-day life. And so if you start using that as an excuse, you're going to suck, you're going to fail. You're not going to sell cars. You're not going to sell anything, because you've already decided that people don't want to spend money. So anyway, I'll let you jump in for a minute, Paul. But what I was thinking we talked about today was just some things you can control, and then why you should, and then also, not everyone is you. What Paul Sullivan's worried about, Smith may not be worried about. Billy Merritt may not be worried about. Billy's out selling today in Tennessee. He's not worried about what everyone else is worried about. He's going to go out and realize that there's still people who want to do business, who want to excel, who haven't given up, and who aren't worried and scared and sitting in a corner. So anyway, what are you seeing? What are you seeing going on, Paul?
I really do. I agree with you that if you sit around and hold back, then really the economy just comes to a standstill. That doesn't help anybody. I mean, it really doesn't. And we're not saying, go spend money that you don't have. We're not saying that. But we're saying, you have to continue to do business. The world's going to continue. It doesn't matter who wins the presidency, who wins your Senate race, all that kind of stuff. You have to do business. You have to continue to live your life. And one of the main things that, we always talk about here in our business is, no matter what the what the economy is, no matter, if the weather's good, the weather's bad, all that kind of stuff. There's a couple things that we always look at it. If you think of these two things, and it's a little bit dirty because I've had it for a while, but we do this, hard work. Hard work. It doesn't matter what the economy is. It doesn't matter what the weather's like, what state you're in, how much money you have. Hard work, and then you flip it around and you sacrifice. So if you'll sacrifice and you'll do hard work, then things are going to happen for you. Now, there's one other word that we actually do an exercise here in the office that I use with the ninjas. And I talk to them. Those are our text ninjas, employees that we have here in the call center. And I use this a lot. I'm going to give you the very shortened version of it, but it starts with this one little card and my handwriting. It might look like a little kid, but that's my handwriting. I handwrite every single one of them with the word believe. And what I do is I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you believe that things are going to happen, it's very similar to Billy talking about writing your goals down, things that will come to fruition. You almost wish it into reality. But if you believe, this little card, I give one to every ninja, and I tell them, look, this card can be just, a Sharpie on an index card. I give it to them. I said, it's yours. You can throw it in the trash can and never see it again. No big deal. It's your card. I said, or, you can actually believe that your dreams, your desires will actually come true. And if you put this card somewhere where you see it every day, and again, I've given one to every single employee that's worked for us. I tell them, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on the dashboard of your car, things like that, so that you see it every day. And it reminds you that if you'll believe in those goals, that things actually can happen. And so again, going back to, you got to sacrifice to make those goals happen. You got to do the hard work, to make those goals happen. But bringing it back around to the dealer, is that, look, dealers have to understand that, you got to believe that you're going to sell cars. You got to do business as usual, basically. Now, you have to be smart about certain things. You have to adjust and adapt. That's what we've called 2020 from the get-go, as things have happened with COVID and the economy and people, the separation, all that kind of stuff. Think about that for just a second, Caleb. Think about how dealers had to completely redo business, wearing masks, delivering cars, all that kind of, you would never have thought of that a year ago.
No. And I have a dealer in Asheville, North Carolina, and obviously North Carolina is a very liberal state and a liberal governor who shut things down. And Asheville is an extremely liberal area, and they were not allowed to go on test drives. They could only have 3 people in the dealership at one time. So he's like, we couldn't even have a salesman, a sales manager and a finance manager in with a customer at the same time because we could only have 3 people inside. He's like, so we had to kind of he said, and the bad part is there was people watching trying to turn them in, so he's like, they were basically having to work outside. And, it's like, you can't build value in a vehicle when you can't go on the test drive and get the customer excited about it. So it became all about just a price transaction, and which obviously hurt profits, because there was no emotional, there was no selling involved. It was just order taking and taking numbers. So it impacted him. But, while you were talking, that's what I was doing, was just making a little list here. Right. And on that little list, a little pyramid, it's, hey guys, a lot of people depend on everybody, so I was thinking, I've told people before, hey, I'm not going to pay 60% taxes. I'll just shut everything down. But the problem with that is and that's the problem with a lot of people's logic, is if big companies give up and shut down, then the owner of the companies are still going to be just fine, Paul. They're going to, they already have the resources put away. They're going to be just fine. Sure. If I said today, Paul, I said, Caleb, you know what? I don't want to, I'm not, whatever this ends up being, I'm not working for the next 4 years. Well, I'm going to be fine. The problem is, Paul, is I was looking at my list, the 50 people that depend on me to sell at BMM, it's going to, it could hurt them some, right? Exactly. The people that work for me at Propaganda, it could hurt them. They're not going to have their jobs. The people that work for me on the land clearing, they're not going to have a job. The people that work for me with the kennels, they're not going to have a job. The horse trainers, like I wrote down, like the nanny, the barn help, the land help, the people that cut the grass, the pool, the laundry.
Caleb, it's no wonder you have anxiety.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing about that, Paul. All those people are dependent on me to keep making money so I can pay all of them. And right. And while they may be lower income jobs, all that money's coming from my businesses. Right. And that's the same way, guys, right now. If you're a general manager in your store or you're the car dealer in your store, everyone that works for you is depending on you, Paul. Everyone is counting on you to have clear leadership, to be focused and have a plan for success. Because if this dealership was to, start struggling, you're still going to be okay. But a lot of other people, and it's not just the people you see. It's not just the people in the store or in the office working for you, Paul, or like I said, in a dealership setting. It's everybody that they also are handing money off to for goods and services.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, it's a fortunate situation to be in and an unfortunate situation to be in when you're in a place of leadership. There are a lot of benefits. You have flexibility maybe with your schedule. You have more finances. But you also have, if you don't match that, if you don't weigh that scale with the responsibility for others, then it really becomes vanity to the point of what's the point? What's the point in accomplishing these things if you can't continue to help everyone else, do better and fulfill their life in a better way? So right now, a lot of you guys that are at that top level, you're going to just have to hang it up and say, hey, look, I've got to be a clear leader right now. I've got to have clear action plans. And some things you could do right now, Paul, is just really go back to writing your goals down daily, like we always talk about and like Grant always talks about. It's like your card that said believe. I used to keep one of the ones from Cardone, that said success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility, and I had added to that, that God gave me gifts and talents that I'm not going to waste because he gave them to me. We all have skills and gifts and talents that that God gives us, and we have to use those or we'll lose them. You have to, it's like anything else, you have to use them or lose them. And so anyway, right now, if you're a leader, you need to be a leader. You need to have clear goals. You need to lead your team. You need to do things that take them away from the problem. So right now, if you're seeing a lot of people, I wouldn't have the news on in my dealership, right? That would not be playing. I would not have that on my computers at work. I would tell everybody, get off of it. If I see you watching that junk, I'm going to send you home because your mind's already there. You're not at work. You're already at home still. And unfortunately, I'm going to ban some of that stuff in my environment because I don't want that negative stuff that I can't control. Regardless, like I said, what happens, there's nothing you can do, Paul. There's nothing I can do. But, it's just reality of what it is. There's us, me and you individually, we can vote and that's it. So we can't really do nothing to change what's happening. We just have to we have to lead the people around us that count on us. And that's what dealers got to do right now, is just lead everyone around them in a positive way. And then if you're in a situation, guys, you're a salesman and you have a poor leader, then you better lead for yourself. You better go ahead and just make your own goals and just decide right now that you're going to focus on things you can control. So if your dealership is shutting down advertising, then you're going to need to do some of the things we've talked about before. You're going to need to be calling every customer and asking for referrals. You're going to need to call every customer and ask them if they have multiple vehicles in their home, could we trade them into another one? So you're going to have to take some very actionable steps as a salesperson if your leader is failing you right now. So anyway, Paul, I'll kick it back to you.
I wanted to ask you, Caleb, you have a lot of years of experience in dealerships. So I'm curious when you run across hard times or challenges, I guess maybe is a better way of putting it. When you run across a challenge, what are some of the things that you would tell? I mean, you just mentioned one or two, but what are some of the things you would tell different parts of the dealership? So like, let's say service, the service.
Okay.
How do you get the service department re-energized in this kind of uneasiness situation that we're in right now?
Okay. Yeah. So great question. Number one, I had a situation like that where I fired the service manager because he was a piece of crap. To be honest with you, he was rude to everybody, treated people like junk.
Did you write that on his exit interview?
Yeah, I did. You don't want to see that. So I fired him, but he had loyalty with some of his people because what he did basically is he was paying them for work. He was paying them money they didn't deserve. He was stealing from the company to pay the people to be loyal to him. And so I got rid of him and they all quit. So I come into work one day and they had this little, they were going to show us how it was and they all quit. And so we come into work and there's nobody in the service department. And you know what, man, I said, no problem. I'll just sell service today. So as a general manager and part owner in the store, I said, I went out and started writing service that day. I brought a couple salespeople out and I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk to the customer. We're going to see what their concerns are. We're going to fill these papers out and we're going to turn them in and we're going to rock and roll. And we didn't slow down any. Yeah. Was there some paperwork mess? Sure. Was there some things we had to work out? Sure. But it didn't stop the dealership. So if I'm a service manager today, I'm going to say, listen, everybody you talk to that comes into your lane today, you don't know if they're on the left side or the right side. You don't know if they even care about politics. You don't know any of that. So you just need to get it all out of your mind, because it's a phantom. Like I said, it's something that you start thinking is controlling things. It's something you start worrying about is going on. And then you basically you project that onto other people. So the first thing I would do is tell everybody to just get it out of your mind. You know what I mean? Just like forget it. So I would have my meeting and I would say, listen, left, right, down the middle, whatever, forget about it. It doesn't matter. It's not affecting today. It's not going to affect anything till January. And you still have Thanksgiving and Christmas, and most of you have families that are going to want presents, right? And so you only have 6 to 7 weeks between right now and Christmas to make money, to have money for your family and for your children. So the bet, and no matter how much you worry, Paul, nothing's going to change between now and then. There's going to be no changes. So what you're going to have to do is forget about it, and you're going to have to just pretend that none of this is going on at your inside. Like, work becomes a safe place where politics don't matter, and you really have to clear everybody's mind of that. Then number 2, you're going to have to be willing to really communicate extra, because people may be talking without listening sometimes, because especially if in an area where they may not agree with one thing or the other, those people are going to be coming in a little bit upset, a little testy, worried, and now their car's broke down. So they're already upset, and now their car's broke down. Or they're already upset, and now they have to come get an oil change that they know is going to take an hour, and they don't want to be there. So you're going to have to just just take it down a notch. Not let people bother you. Not engage with people who want to create altercations. Just got to be really calm right now. And then in the service department, what I would do is I would advertise to that uncertainty. I would say, listen, during these uncertain times, the last thing you need, Paul, is your car breaking down, right? Like, sure. Hey, during these uncertain times, it's more important than ever to keep your vehicle on the road and running great, because you may not want to step up and spend more money right now on a new car, which I would use the same thing on the new car side, saying, hey, get a new car under warranty where you don't have to worry about anything. But, you can use these times, to benefit your company. This is the Democratic talking point a long time ago, but it was, we never let a good tragedy go to waste. Well, I used to say that with sales. You never let a bad time go to waste. You better find something good that you can take out of it. And right now, what you can do is you can find common ground with your people. You can get everyone on the same page and find some good in a hard time. Mr. Keffer used to say that times like this is where you worked really hard. You could really see all the holes in your dealership when customers weren't just showing up on their own. And that way, when things were good again, you didn't forget about it. So you could have a better organized, a better ran operation, so that next time you might have had a downturn, you were more prepared for it. But these political downturns are not like, it's not economic yet. It's just an argument, it's not an actual economic turn down right now. It's just a mindset. So so what I would do is just get everybody on the same page. I would restrict all of that from my store. Sometimes when you're a leader, Paul, sometimes the wrong players sometimes you have to get people off your team, and you hate to say that, but if I had a guy right now that was just super negative and just super, then I would talk with him first and give him an opportunity and try to counsel him and coach him, because maybe no one's ever done that for that guy. But if it continued, I would get rid of him. I would clear out all the bad seeds out of my store. And because when it is going to be a battle, you don't want to go into it with people that you can't trust, or people that don't support you.
Well, when you brought up like the bad seed, you wanted to, get rid of the bad seed. It's also, kind of the flip side that I wanted to bring up too, on the positive end of it, is that, maybe now you have a little bit more time to reevaluate people on the good end too. So you can recognize people, you can, give them the pat on the back, give them the bonus, give them, an extra day off or whatever, some kind of reward of what they've been doing, again, going back to, the hard work. So
the hard work.
It's a great way. It's a great time and a great way to recognize those outstanding employees as well.
That's right. And in business, guys, as much as we want it to always be great, it's not always going to be great. That's why we do a yearly. That's why that's why you have a yearly number at the end of the year, because some months are going to be high and some months are going to be low. And so, what you can't do is, you want to be smart. You don't want to do things that's going to cost you to lose money. but you want to be, you got to be understanding that not every month's going to be a great month. So you're prepared for that. And if you have a built organization, you have a well-built company, you can withstand some bad weather, but you can't withstand it with bad people. So you got to get, like I said, these times, Paul, it's like if you got somebody that's super positive, that's showing up and they're just excited, then you need to really feed on that guy. Cause like there's a lot of people in every business right now and everywhere you go. And a lot of them could care less about politics, Paul. They could care less about what's going on. They don't care. They're just living their life. They're like, a lot of people are like, well, whatever happens, happens. I'm not worried about it because unfortunately the middle class is not really impacted terribly either way. It's the job creators that are impacted heavy. But so a lot of the people that we're dealing with on a daily basis, they're not really that impacted either way. So why make an issue out of something that's not an issue? Just let people live, keep your people positive, and be. But right now, I think you need to have more meetings right now, Paul. I think you need to have, if I'm the general manager, I'm having my morning sales meeting. I'm having a 10:30 to see what everybody's done. Make sure my one-on-ones are getting done. Make sure that my top, that every salesman in my store has a top 3 that he's working. I'm going to make sure that, and then I'm going to have everybody check out before lunch. I'm going to have everybody check in after lunch. I'm going to have, a 3:30. I'm going to be very present right now because everyone's going to be looking for leadership in their personal and daily lives. And I want them to be able to find that in me as the leader of that group. So, they may not know who their leader of their country is or their leader of their state or whatever, but they're going to know who their leader in their daily life is. And that's going to be, if I'm that general manager, I'm that dealer principal, I'm going to show those guys that, hey, together, we can do this. And the other part of that, Paul, is if you're a general manager right now or a sales manager, you may be working a lot harder for a lot less money right now because you may not have the sales coming in. You may not have the revenue coming in, but you already made a lot in the last, 10, 12 months of really good months. You already made a lot. So now it's kind of, you got to pay back some of that dues by, hey, look, you may work twice as hard. You may have to put forth a lot more energy, a lot more positive energy. You may have to be a lot more disciplined right now. And at the end of the day, you may not have a very big paycheck for it. But if you keep doing that and you work that hard, your company will stay in business and will come back around and the reward will be there. But you're going to have to put in some extra right now, everybody, to fight through some difficult times for some people. So
this is a great time to do extra training too. I know you're a big, you're always talking about you should continuously doing training as well as everybody, not just in car dealerships, but if you're in a business, whatever field that you choose, you should always be trying to better yourself, trying to learn more and train. But times like these, when again, maybe like you said, you're working a little bit harder, you want to work a lot smarter too. So training is always useful. Training
is very important, and training without criticizing is the big thing. Every decision you make, Paul, every action you do throughout the day can be judged and criticized and trained upon. We could look at even this podcast and go, okay, well, hey, Caleb, last minute found out Billy wasn't going to be here. Caleb wasn't prepared, and go back and say, okay, hey, maybe I should create a few shows that are just kind of ready, that, a few scripts are just ready. So if this situation happens again, I'm prepared for it. Right. And so, I'm saying, like, that's a training opportunity,
Yes,
that's a training opportunity. And so, everything that happens, every decision you make is really a training opportunity if you look at it that way. So right now, you can only do so much on your own. So like, I know you, Paul, you're really basically the general manager of Billy Merritt Marketing when it comes to running the team, right. And overseeing things. So right now, you could say, hey, I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to handle all 50 pages this week. I'm going to talk to everybody. But that's only going to get us, like, you can solve, you can run and shut the water off, but then somebody else got to help fix everything else, if there's a problem. So, right now is the time, guys, where you not criticize your team, but you need to analyze every decision being made. So if I go sit in my sales tower right now and I've got 2 desk managers and they're just sitting there looking at their computer, then I need to have a conversation and say, hey guys, what's our plan? What are we doing? Are we waiting on people to show up? We're gonna have to be Micromanaging right now is not a bad thing. Giving clear paths for everybody to follow is not a bad thing. But so you can throw money at a problem or you can work at a problem. If you work at it right now, like I said, you can work through these situations. You can still have great months. You can still have a month. I had a store, Paul, this store is a success story. They had their biggest month in the history of their store in October after one of the worst months in September. They used some of the stuff from the show we talked about. I don't know if you remember the show about merchandising and the pricing. Yeah, well, they implemented he basically said, I sit down and watch the show like 4 times. They implemented everything, and they had the biggest month they ever had, and they spent zero money. They spent zero money with Billy Merritt Marketing with advertising that month. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't spend any money with us because he had lost so much. The dealer cut off his advertising budget, but he put forth all the stuff we talked about in the podcast, and he had his biggest month ever with hardly any advertising. And now, of course, he's come back on for November with us, So because he earned the right to advertise because he made some money for the store.
Right.
And so my point is he had to work like super hard to do that. He had to put a lot of things in place to do that. And he worked really, really hard. And, and his net income may have been, not that impacted. But the guys that all work around him had great months. The guys that normally in a store that normally almost sold double what it normally sells, it's not like they added double the salespeople for 1 month. All those guys had record sales months. So, that was all because of discipline and training. That's all it was just discipline and training. There was no magic pill. It was just discipline and training. So right now, discipline and training is going to be very, very important to be successful. And then on the first day of the month, so like November, you remember last week I talked about like the bonuses, like the $100 for like the worst credit. All right, so he did all that the last week of the month, and he finished the month real strong. But then he sold 12 cars on the first day of the month. And that may not sound like a big number to some of our big clients, but in a store that averaged 35 cars a month, 12 cars in one day is a big deal. And it gave him like a safety net for what happened maybe the rest of the week. So he was prepared for it. He's like, you know what, guys, we're going to push super hard. We know there's election coming up, man. We need to get out of the gate super strong. And by putting those bonuses in place, by doing those little things to change the mindset. And that's really, honestly, man, like that last week's show is, if people wanted to go back and look at that, that's some things you could do right now. Put some bonuses up for the most write-ups. Don't worry about selling cars. Worry about writing up deals. Don't worry about bad credit, no credit, job time, negative equity. Just write up every deal. And if you get the write-ups, you'll sell more cars. So I've always said, like, you'll close 2 out of every 10 write-ups. Mm-hmm. If you really track every deal, you'll close about 20% of all traffic in a dealership. So if you're like, well, I need to sell more cars, you just need to write up more people. You need to write up every single person that comes into service. Even if they don't want to be, you can go out there and see what kind of car they have. If they bought it from you, it's in the system. So their credit information, what their payment is. Just write up a deal and take it to them. If you came in to my store for an oil change right now, Paul, just an oil change, and it's right now when things are tough, I'm going to say, hey, look, guys, anybody that comes in with a, like maybe a 15 model to 18 model vehicle, I want you to call the sales tower and tell us. Send somebody out there, appraise that car. If they bought it from you, look up the deal, and then go hand it to them. Say, hey, Paul, I know you were looking for a car. I know you're just here for an oil change, but there's some specials going on right now. This is what I could trade you into a new car for. And if it's close to what they're paying now, Paul might be interested. Paul may have had no interest in buying a vehicle, but because I went ahead and wrote him up and put it in front of him, now he's like, well, hey, if I can get a new car and, my payment's not really going to change, let's roll, So write everybody up. That's something you could do right now too, Paul.
One of the things that when you talked about writing that up in the service department, the beauty of it is too, that you're also planting the seed of getting a new car. So let's say you don't close that person. They decide they're not going to do it that day, but now it's in their head. So a week or 2 down the road, you're like, that deal was a pretty good deal. So, you can always, to me, that's kind of working outside the box. I love the idea.
Yeah. It's planting the seed for it. You let them know, what's possible if they wanted to, and I mean, because this is going to sound, I don't want to say this in a way that might sound bad, but people that have car payments typically always have a car payment for You know what I
People
mean?
accept it. Yeah, they do. They accept it. Like, I always have a car payment.
I'm always, if you talk to people, they're like, look, I'm going to have a car. I talk to a lot of people, they're like, man, I don't have any credit cards, but I got a car payment and a house payment, right? Well, let's just accept it. So if they're going to have a car payment anyway, and they're going to be paying for it, you know, usually when you buy something, you really like it when you first get it. That's why you bought it, or you were trying to solve a situation. You know, maybe you had to trade down because something happened with your job and you're driving something you really don't want, and your job's got better now, and you may want to trade up. Maybe, you know, maybe you're the person that just likes to have a new vehicle, or maybe, you know, a body style change happened, or some equipment came out that you really like. With the way technology changes constantly, you know, new stuff's coming out. And so it's like, hey, Paul, you're always going to have a car payment. You're paying $400 a month now. You know, for $420, I can get you in this brand new vehicle. It has this, and this. You know, think about it and give me a call if you're interested. That phone will usually ring. If you do it enough, you know, like I said, if you write up 10 of them, then 2 to 3 people are going to buy a car from you. And that's 2 to 3 deals you would not have had. And if you got 20 salespeople and 2 to 3 deals you wouldn't have had happen, and now you've got an extra, you know, 40 to 60 car deals, now the economic whatever doesn't matter. You just had a great month because you had your normal business flow plus this extra work that you did. But it's going to come down to working right now, man. It's going to come down to working hard, staying positive. And if you're going to have a negative, if you're negative, Paul, or if you see something negative, the best thing to do is go out to your own car. I mean, if you need to sit in your car and cry, or sit in your car and scream, you need to do it away from everybody else, you know, and keep it all positive. It needs to be a safe area inside that dealership where everything's positive.
Caleb, you know, I have a question about how you would recommend this with your experience. How often, so like, let's say I buy a car from you today. How often do you reach out to me as a customer? Like, you know, when is that time frame that you reach out to that customer?
So there's two answers there. On a dealership level, I'm going to make sure at least every 3 months that I'm just sending you some type of email. Hey, you know, it's been, you know, and all the CRMs have a default for that, right? Like you set up a 90-day, you know, 180-day, and, you know, and just set up that follow-up. But personally, this goes back to the Be Your Own Dealership episode we did.
Yes.
Personally, everybody I sold, if I'm a salesman, I would make sure I had that person's cell phone number. And and a good way to do that, Paul, is obviously you're getting it with the credit app and stuff. But to create a conversation is, you know, if you'll take that picture of that customer with their vehicle before they leave on your phone, say, hey, I just want to get it for my customer board. I want to get your picture with your new vehicle. And then you take that and you put that in your phone, you save it in your phone. You have their number. Then I like to do it once a month as a salesperson. I'd like to just sit down in the morning, look at everybody I sold last month on that same day, and then shoot them a message. Like, hey, Paul, this is Caleb at the dealership. I just wanted to see if you had any questions about your vehicle, or, you know, make sure things are going good. And then I'll, you know, of course, if it's their birthday or if it's their, you know, if it's their car anniversary, or if it, you know, if they were in for service and I missed them, I'm going to spend more time working the people I've already sold a car to than worrying about new leads, because new leads are great, you know, to try to sell something right now. But if Paul, if you bought a car from me and I sell you a car and I'm like, okay, Paul, I'm committed to being a car salesman. And I'm like, well, Paul's going to buy a car from me every 2 years, every 2 to 3 years. And I sell 20 cars a month, Paul. Then after 2 years of working at that dealership, I should have 15 to 20 deals every month that come back to me like a lease, basically. Like I can, like, so when I show up in December, I'm like, okay, 2 years ago in December, I sold 23 cars. I should be able to sell 15 this month without any leads, without hawking the lot, without working super hard. You know, I should be able to get those deals. So I'm going to text. So basically, I'm going to create a great relationship with every customer, and I will text them monthly, every month. So you're not talking about sending 20 texts a day, Paul. You're talking about, you know, after year one, you know, each day you may have to send a text to 1 to 2 people if you're selling 20 cars a month. And then year 2, 4 to 5, and then year 3, 5, 6, in year 4. And that's how the guys that are selling, they're selling 30 to 40 cars a month. They're not doing it from leads or being a house mouse. They're doing it from working their own power base. And then then I have all the power in that situation. So if I'm 3 years in, I'm at a dealership, Paul. I'm talking to my customers every month. I'm the number one salesman because of the people that love me and like me, and I've done a great job marketing myself. if I go up there today, Paul, and say, hey, Mr. Dealer, man, I'm going to take a couple of days off. I need a break. My customers, I'm just going to take a couple of days off. He may not like it, but he can't get rid of you. You know, he can't get rid of you, you know, because he knows that
You're too important. Yeah.
You're too important. Those customers are yours. And Paul, those customers will follow you because their relationship is with you, not the dealership, you know?
Right.
And so anyway, that's what I was saying, you know, it's like, you don't have to be, I would follow up monthly. You know, that's my answer. If I'm a salesperson, that's my customer, I'm going to follow up every month with that customer. If I'm a dealership, realistically, it'd be great if you did it at the dealer level, but it doesn't mean that much to the customer if they're getting a text from the salesman and from the dealership. They'd rather hear from the salesman.
Now, to kind of add on to that, Caleb, when you reach out to your customer, do you ask for referrals every time you reach out, or how often do you do that?
No, I don't think you have to. I think if you become an advocate to the customer, of the automotive advocate, that you don't have to ask for referrals, that they'll give them to you. I think people say, you know, when they hear their friend say, man, I need to get an oil change, or man, my car's not acting right, or man, I need a new vehicle, they're going to say, Paul's going to say, hey, man, I know this guy, Caleb, you need to call him. He's great. He'll take care of everything, you know, and because of my follow-up and my relationship building, advocacy happens. And those people, I don't have to be the noisy salesman saying, hey, do you have any referrals? Hey, do you have any referrals? Hey, do you have any referrals? If I haven't done that, you know what I mean? Like if I haven't laid the foundation, then I'm not afraid to beg for a deal, right? Like, you know what I mean? But so if you're in that, so you're like, well, man, Caleb, you're talking about a plan that's going to help me 3 years from now. What about right now? Well, right now you may have to beg because you didn't do the stuff you should have done, you know? Right. But so yeah, I mean, I'm not too embarrassed to call people and say, hey, man, hope you love your car. Do you have anybody you could send me? But well, really, they're going to say, man, you know, if I think of somebody, I'll let you know. I mean, that's the answer you're going to get. Whereas if you're an advocate for you're the guy they know to call if something happens, you know, that's where you're going to actually get those real opportunities at. You know, that's where those real customers are going to come from, and that's where you're going to get those people that you actually need, and that's where that, you know, like I said, that's where that's going to come from, is from those people. So you just have to be prepared for that. But I mean, right now, if you haven't done that, shame on you. If you're brand new and you haven't got a chance to learn how to do it, start working on it. But don't be afraid to beg, you know, and because if you're looking at it like, hey, I have to have this, this is how I pay my bills, then you better be not ashamed to get on the phone and beg somebody to buy something.
Absolutely. So final question here, Caleb.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to make the jump and they're going to go, hey, I'm going to go and work into car sales. I want to get a job in car sales. How long would you say, how long would you give someone for them to reach, I guess, success, where they go, this is the job for me? What's the average length of time that somebody would make a decision to go, yes, I'm a car salesman?
We always have said 6 months, Paul. If they last 6 months, they'll stay forever. That's what we all, you know, that's the kind of what everyone in the car business says. If they can make it 6 months, they'll last forever. It's not selling cars that's hard, Paul. It's the hours. It's not selling cars that's hard. And that's why I encourage dealers to look at it different and give people some flexibility to enjoy their life and sell cars. Because selling cars it's not that it's not fun. It's an adrenaline rush. You know what I mean? It's like you close that deal. It's exciting. That part becomes addictive almost. You know, it's like, man, I just got to sell another one. However, it's the go move all the cars on the lot when it's 100 degrees outside. It's the, you know, getting constantly berated, constantly yelled at, constantly, you know, talked down to, constantly, you know, controlled. That's the parts that make the car business miserable, and that's the parts that make people quit. That's why I think it's the highest turnover of any industry. That's why so many people come in, stay for a month, and leave. I mean, we've had people show up, leave at lunch on their first day, and not come back. You know, it's just, you know, and that's true. You know, and so that's where we as the industry have to do a better job at building better cultures in our store, because people are changing. You can't manage people like you used to, as far as just basically you do it because I said so. You got to tune people into what's in it for them. And that's how you're going to have good quality people. But yeah, I think if you can survive 6 months, you'll usually stay, because by that point you've become pretty decent at it. You've got a good skill level going, and you're starting to make some real money. And you're like, man, I can sell 3 cars a week and make the same money as working 50 hours a week somewhere else doing something I don't want to do. So that's why it's easy to keep somebody in the car business once you get them, once they become committed to it. With that being said, some people decide in the first 2 months, if it's made for them. But you'll know. I mean, honestly, most good managers, they'll know if it's the right fit before they hire the person. So with a good interview process, you can get rid of a lot of turnover.
Sure. Well, Caleb, I know you mentioned, trying to find time for business and for things that you enjoy. That's what it kind of helps you keep you sane, if you will. And I'm certain that it helps your anxiety as well. So I appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you, man.
Always really, really good information. So thank you very much.
All right. Appreciate it, brother. Y'all have a great day, man. I'll talk to y'all soon.
You too.
All
Digital Dealer School. It happens every Thursday. Billy Merritt presents at 11 a.m. I'll be back tomorrow with Billy and maybe a few surprises tomorrow on Feel Good Friday. Have a great day. Cheers.
Thanks.